Now excited to be joined by a very special guest. It is the Boss Hog, Sam Pittman. Sam, let's start with the question that I know I'm at least am always curious about when we chat. I know there's been some pretty extreme weather just kind of across the United States lately, it feels like. How is the slobbering hog statue holding up?
Uh, well, I had a pump go out down there, and I wanted to slobber a little bit more than what we did in the past. So I had a pump going out, and as of I think on Monday they put a new pump in it, and I haven't seen, but I think it's slobbering pretty good right now and ready to roll for the good weather. And boats are going out. We just were on spring break last week, and heck, I got on my boat about four times. Forced two of the days. It was a little windy and cold, but um, yeah, it's doing good, and people started coming by it again already. So I think it'll be ready for summer and ready for the folks.
Are people being respectful of the statue? Because I know you've had that issue in the past where people want to come up to it. And it's like, hey, like don't touch the statue. It's a slobbering hog. It's a piece of art that you have on your property. Have you had to deal with that?
Oh, I've dealt with it in the past, and most of the time when they're on jet skis, and they'll come jump up in there and flip me off whenever they leave, But other than that, it's been pretty good. There's plenty of signs that say, "Hey, man, this is a valuable hog to me. It means more than just a statue. So please, kind of respect it as you would the hogs." And so, but no. It's been fine. It's a lot of fun. People come over and call the hogs, and just a lot of fun. And I enjoy it. I enjoy seeing the smiles on the guys' faces.
You have proven that hogs are more powerful than marlins because the marlin was what was there initially. The insurance claim was what wiped it out. Yeah, I bet this time of year is pretty unique in the college football calendar, but not to go too big picture. This is probably a little bit of an anxious time with the way that the portal window now sets up. And I know, it's embracing every day, but what about this window, this post spring window, kind of makes April just a challenging month for college football coaches?
Yeah, I think you're always very concerned about it. We thought we were told, and we thought that there would be one portal, and the April portal would go away, which obviously, you'd have to make it make sense to me in that you go through spring ball, you probably should know what your team's going to look like. Now, we haven't had a lot of movement in April. We have had a lot of movement, as well documented, in December. You see a lot of movement right now in basketball, but that's because their season's just over, just like football, where it affects the bowl games, it affects your team, whatever. Um, but I do think that, we cannot recruit another SEC. We couldn't if a guy went in the portal from another SEC team. We can't take him, nor can they take us. So that does help. Um, but of course, you're always concerned about it because you don't know, who's calling who, and it's. But in the past, this hasn't been a big deal now because we have to get our roster to 105. I think for the public, for us, and for everybody, it's going to look like, man, there is a lot of movement in the portal. The bottom line is we have 119 on our team. We've got to get to 105. So at that point, you're going to have some conversations with the guys and say, hey, look, after the spring game, and then you're going to go, hey, look, now there's going to be a possibility that you'll be able to make the 105. There'll be a possibility you won't. I think we owe that to the guys because, you can get your roster to 105 the day before the first game. At that point, if they're not on the 105, they're also not on the team. So I think for us, I want to be honest with the guys where they sit, where they stand, and go from there and really put the decision more in, tell them the truth, and then put the decision in their hands and not necessarily in mine.
How hard is that? Because that gets easily spun into this guy got cut or this guy didn't make the 105 and they're stripping his scholarship away. And you could see a headline that all of a sudden looks really bad. How difficult is that to be in that spot as a head coach, knowing that in this day and age, it just has to spread and it has to be that one guy where all of a sudden, maybe things didn't go well in that meeting room and all of a sudden you're looking up going, man, I thought we had a pretty clear conversation of what was expected of each other.
Well, that's the thing about a coach is that you don't have a rebuttal. In other words, you're not going to get in a conversation about, well, this is really what happened. This is not, I mean, it's part of coaching. I'm not saying that that's right, but I am saying that it's part of coaching. So the narrative can get screwed any skewed in any way you want it to. But probably more important than that is you have guys that put blood, sweat, and tears into your program that you're talking to going, man, I just don't know if you'll ever have an opportunity to play here, but you're so valuable to the team. But we got to get to 105. It's more a personal deal in that I really, really appreciate you. I love you. But the rules now say we can't be at 120 anymore. We have to be at 105. So that's probably the most difficult part of it. The backlash from the media and all that. Hell, if I was worried about that, I'd quit a long time ago.
How aggressive do you feel like you have to be in the post spring window? Do you feel like you have a good idea of what that's going to look like for you?
I
Because
do.
it depends a lot on your own roster, obviously.
I do. And it comes down to numbers, to be honest with you. We're light in the secondary, number wise. We're a little light on the D line. So we could be light at linebacker. So now I'm assuming that nobody comes in here, scholarship player comes in here and says, I'm going in the portal. If that happens, then, we're probably anywhere from 4 to 6 scholarship guys that we probably need to bring in. And most of that is defensive related simply because of numbers.
For those of us that maybe didn't necessarily get to see the dynamic that you guys have on a daily basis, how would you describe your first year getting to work with Bobby Petrino?
Oh, it was great. I've always been a believer in hiring, if I could, hiring somebody that's had experience either at the SEC level or major college level as a coach, as a coordinator, where I can run things off and visit with them about that. And of course, Bobby's had the experience at a lot of places, including the NFL, but also Arkansas. And so uh, gone very, very, very well. He's obviously a outstanding person and football coach, and I've enjoyed every bit of it.
You said last year that you were going to be the one that was going to go into his office and just kind of bother him and just always be asking questions. Did you kind of stick to that?
I think I bother him, but not as much as I did before. I think I've understood that any time that I'm taking away from him, developing our offense and meeting with his guys is so I do it either if I do it, I do it a little bit later in the day or over lunch or something like that. But him and I'll be honest with you, I've talked to Travis Williams more, because he's been here, he understands, and I've run things by him a little bit more this year as well.
Tell me what that rapport is like with assistants because you've had it before where you've had to kind of manage. Oh, this guy's getting a head coaching job, and for a while that was the conversation with Barry Odom. We've seen what happened since then,
It's been great.
and he's been he's getting this new opportunity, and obviously he has you to thank for that. But what is that dynamic like with Travis Williams? Because he's a guy that I always put in these conversations of guys like he's getting a head coaching job really, really soon. And you're the one that's got to kind of manage that and know that if he does his job as he should, which I think so far for the most part, that's been the case, that opportunity is going to come for him.
Yeah, I want him to. I don't want to lose him, but I want him to. I want him to have that opportunity to go out and run his own team, and I think he's ready to do that. And he'll, he had some conversations this year with some Division 1A possibilities of being head coach. But at the same time, I want it to be right for him. And, anytime you take your first one, you don't want to run into a place that can't win or a place that administrative wise doesn't give you a chance. So I think he does have an opportunity to do that. I just want him to be picky and want him to take the right one that feels good to him and his family. And that will happen at some point because he's deserving of that.
What sort of dynamic do Taylen and Bobby have? Because they had that rapport as, Bobby being the guy who offered him his first scholarship during the recruiting process. And that was something that he talked about when he came to Arkansas from Boise State. But what's that relationship been like after now seeing a year of it where you have to deal with the ups and downs? And it was not all ups, there was plenty of ups, but there was plenty of those moments, I'm sure, where those two guys had to figure each other out to be able to make things work.
Well, I think we forget at times that Taylen Green played about half the season injured, so there's some things that Bobby had to adjust, some things that Taylen had to adjust. I think there's high respect between the two guys. And I think that Taylen believes that Bobby's the best thing for him to help him win games for the Hogs and get drafted higher in the draft. They have a wonderful relationship. It's not always, it's coaching and it's understanding. And I think Taylen has grown in that. Hey, he's trying to get me to be the best player I can be and the best team leader I can be. But he always has had great leadership qualities about him, and he's got that positive outlook, and he's got a great belief in himself. So as long as he keeps that, I think he's just going to continue to get better and better, which we've seen throughout spring ball. He's also healthy now, and that makes a ton of difference.
Does your heart stop when Taylen hurdles?
Not if he clears the guy. If he gets
Six
caught in
six.
midair, yes.
6'6" dudes hurdling is just not something that the human eye is used to seeing. And when that happening at Auburn, even I'm like, oh my God, like what in the world is that? Do you have a talk with him when he comes to the sideline, or is like, all right, Bobby's gonna take care of that?
No, my talks to him are more trying to keep his confidence up and all those things. But you can't like the athleticism of a guy and then allow him not to use it. So no, heck no. I probably said, man, that's a hell of a play. Be careful.
What's Taylen capable of being within the SEC, that SEC hierarchy? Let's say he puts together that full season. It's year two in this scheme, obviously multiple seasons as a starter at this level. What is he capable of being? Is it one of the SEC's best quarterbacks? Is that the type of ceiling you believe he has?
Yeah, there's no question in my mind. I think, let me say this, there's a lot of good quarterbacks out there. I wouldn't trade him for any of them. So I think that he's unlimited in what he can do. And I think he's got a great coach and a great schematics and guys who are getting better up front on the O line around him. So I think you'll see a better Taylen Green because we've gotten better around him and he's gotten better personally.
You talked last year about wanting to be more hands-on with the offensive line again. How was that experience? What did you kind of learn about yourself now that you've had the head coaching experience in between kind of that and getting back to that sort of role, getting back to your roots as an offensive line coach? How did that go of year one, kind of trying that mentality out again?
I think twofold. Number one, I really believe in our offensive line coach, Coach Mateus, that we have, and me working with him here at Arkansas before, I think helps both of our relationship. Uh, when we go into individual, when we go into team, when I meet with the offense, which is after every practice and before every meeting, um, there's probably 90% of that meeting goes about offensive line play, to be perfectly honest with you. And Eric's good at taking but I've found that I can do a little bit more after off the video in helping technique things and why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? And if the answer is good, then we'll just keep doing it. If the answer is something, well, what about trying this, trying that? But you have to have a special guy like Eric is to be able to do that because a guy who you haven't worked with or whatever, he may think it's nitpicky and he may think this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. And he may think that I'm picking on him. And that's not the case. I just want the offensive line to be as good as anybody has in the country. And if I have something that I think can help it, then shame on me if I don't say it.
What was the cold beer of choice after the Tennessee win?
Oh, Miller Lite. That one's easy. I mean, you've asked some great questions. That's easy. That was like lob it up there.
What was the last time you had anything but Miller Lite to celebrate a nice victory? That's the better question.
I like some old Coors Light every now and then, uh, I think that's I think that's about it, Back in the day, you'd have a little Bush Light and stuff when you was on a budget, and little natty light when your budget was running a little low. They're obviously good beers, but um, got a little bit more money and decided to go with those old pint Miller Lights.
Which UT win meant more for you? And Tennessee fans are going to get upset that it's called Texas UT, but the Texas win in 21 felt so significant with, the situation you inherited and obviously that moment. It really was kind of like, wow, Arkansas is back at the forefront of the national conversation. How did that compare to last year in being able to beat that Tennessee team and to give the home fans something that obviously they didn't experience the previous season?
Well, I think, Texas is Texas, and I think it meant a ton to the universe, to the state. I think anytime it means something to the state, then it becomes more meaningful to me, which both the games did. But Texas was pretty special. Texas at the time was maybe 15th. Tennessee was fourth. And then there was a lot of games in between that Texas game and the Tennessee game and a little bit of our football team, our state being able to win the Tennessee game at number four, a really good football team. Because of all the things that had gone between, we'd went to, the Outback Bowl, we'd went to Liberty Bowl, we'd had a losing season, and then coming back, when everybody had the coach gone and all that, which isn't good for recruiting, but and then coming out and beating undefeated number four team in the country with a lot of help from the stadium, a lot of help from the people in the stands. Uh, Probably that one, to be honest with you, just simply. Now, if my hip wasn't crushing me and it was awful, I probably would have celebrated a little bit more than what I did. But um, to answer your question, I think the Tennessee game last year.
You shoot it straight. I mean, you're just talking about enduring what that was like, those conversations of coaches gone, it hurts in recruiting. But I mean, reality is, unless you're Nick Saban or Kirby Smart, getting to year 6 in the SEC, you're going to hear that at some point. Like it's just,
I mean, you getting to year six and having 4 out of 5 bowls, winning every one you played. The only coach that went to Florida and won. There's some, we beat a top 5 team this year. There's a lot more positives going on but negative sales. I get all that. I don't think it's fair for anybody, but I think if you're in the public eye, you're gonna get crushed. I don't care who you are. When Coach Saban was coaching, if he lost a game, my Lord, uh, for years we used, in recruiting, when's he going to retire, all those things. Um, but it's part of it. I'm a lot better than I've ever been. I'm certainly off of social media. So that helps, and I've asked my wife to be off. It really doesn't have a lot to do with me. It has more to do with your family, and the effect that it has. I listened to Cal talk about it, after one of his games, and it made a lot of sense. But the bottom line is, I want to be the head coach at Arkansas. So all that comes with it is not going to be rosy. That's just how it is. And so I'm dealing with it, I think, as good as I've ever done with it. And would I rather be at the lake or be the head coach at Arkansas? I'd rather be here calling them hogs.
Plenty of time to be at the lake. Plenty of
That's right.
time for that.
Amen.
By the way, I like how you say we used to say that, oh, when's Saban gonna retire? And you probably didn't get to play that card as effectively as you would have liked to, like all those years at Georgia, where it's like, all right, it's gonna happen at some point. But you threw that in there, and it's reality. Like anything that could be used as negative recruiting can be used. And for you,
Well,
I'm sure people would
will
say
be
that.
will be used. And
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how it is. The only guy that knows what I'm going to do is me. And so obviously, there's a lot of speculation about a lot of different things. Last year I was the hottest coach in America. And all those things. But I knew we had a good team. Now obviously we got to cut the turnovers down. We'd had a better team. Uh, but I'm the only one, and I'm very, very confident. And I want to be the head coach here, and very, very confident in this year's team. Should be. We've done a lot of good things this spring, and I've got a good group of players and a good coaching staff. So you just have to deal with it. And I would say of the 120, let's say, D1 schools, there are probably 60 to 70 guys dealing with something like that. And, you never know when a guy's going to leave. At least, I'm not leaving here. I'm not going to go take another job. So I always use that as well in recruiting.
In honor of the late Bob Holt, I gotta ask you a two-parter
Bobby.
about Landon Jackson. Yeah, the very famous two-parter, three-parter SEC Media Days. It won't be the same without Bob there being able to fire those off. One, how scary was it watching that guy, lay on the field, regular season finale, where you're like, man, Landon Jackson's been huge for our program, and we know what he sacrificed to come back for that extra year when he could have gone to the NFL. And then two, how rewarding has it been to see that guy continue to kind of climb up these draft boards during the pre-draft process and have everybody kind of going, man, we need to take a closer look at that guy because he's doing things that, I mean, simply put, like that will play at the next level.
I'm so proud of him. He never one time came in here ever about I'm going in the portal. Never. He was so easy to deal with. Uh, he's a grown man, is what he is. Has been that way ever since he walked in the door. Jamie and I got invited to his draft party, so we'll get to go down there. That's priceless. That's when a guy gets drafted, and he gets drafted at any point, but when he gets drafted where he believes that he's going to get drafted, like when I went to Frank's party, uh, very, very, you can't buy it. It's just priceless. And so I'm really happy with him. I think he's upped his stock. I think his stock was really high when he was here. But I think he's really upped his stock now where they're legitimately talking about him in the first round. And I pray and hope that's where he goes. And we're going to be down there, and hopefully we'll be a part of that.
This has been great. Want to get you out of here with some rapid fire, just 5 questions. First thing that comes to mind. Does that work for you?
Well, I'll tell you first or second, sometimes my mind works a little different.
All right. What's your go-to in-flight entertainment?
Forrest Gump,
Every time?
if I can. I love that movie. Comedy, slap comedy. Love it.
That's a really good plane movie too, because the variety in
Great
it and the
planes.
length of it.
It's a long movie. It's the first, well, I'm going to tell you why. It's the first movie I ever watched on a plane.
Really? How young were
Recruiting,
you?
I was recruiting Matt O'Neill, and I was flying out there, and I go, God, dogs, they got a thing here, and you can buy whatever. Back, I think, when you could pay for cash, and I watched that, and that old boy taught Elvis how to dance. And I mean, he did everything. And I thought it was a great movie. Won the Heisman. I thought it was great.
Did it all. Okay, I asked this question a little bit nervously, but how is Lucy the Bulldog doing?
Now you're nervous because Lucy was old, 14. Lucy passed. Now we got Caramel Latte.
Okay.
So Latte is another fat square with a head called a bulldog. And she's now about a year, a little over a year. And so I think she's number 5 for us. But Lucy lived 14 years. That's a long, long time for a bulldog. And so she had a great life. But now we got Latte.
Latte. I like that. That's a good name. Can
That
you
was
name?
that's my wife, by the way, not mine. Jamie likes coffee. She's kind of brown or whatever, so she looked kind of like a latte.
Nothing wrong with a latte. Get everything going. Start the day. Nothing wrong with that.
No,
Can you name the list of SEC coaches who have been at their jobs longer than you have?
think so. Stoops, Kirby. There was a bunch of us got hired in the same time.
That's it.
I don't
Yeah,
think there's anybody else.
that's it. It's you. Those two. You named it. Yeah,
Year 6 now. I mean, that's a long time in this league.
very
What's
long
that?
time.
About 3.5, I think.
Yeah,
So in that aspect, I'm kicking butt.
I would agree with that. What's the best meal that you've had in recent memory?
I'm so simple. If something happened and I was getting ready to get rid of me, I'd order 2 cheeseburgers, some Ruffles, plain chips, and ranch to dip the Ruffles in. That's why I'm so sleek, my build. But the best meal that I've had is probably that, in my mind. Now, I love to go to steak places and eat steak and all that as well. But if I had a choice, it'd be a couple of cheeseburgers with some big old tomatoes and mayonnaise on it.
Love how you just answered that as your electric chair meal. It's something. If something were to happen, yeah,
Well, you got to be prepared on everything, don't you?
that's very true. You never know. Last one for you. What does embracing the hog look like in 2025?
It starts with leadership, and I'm not the only leader in the building. So it starts with accountability from everybody in this building, and it works down to the kids. I love this group of kids. I think they're fighters. They're physical. Not We don't have a lot of complaining going on and all that. Uh, so I think this team is embracing the hog. I think this team is tough and physical and accountable and loyal. And you really find out about guys. You can't find out how tough somebody is unless you do tough situations. Our guys have been through that. We believe in a physical spring. A lot of guys now don't. We believe in the spring game. A lot of guys don't. But you've got to do what you believe in. I'm the head coach, and that's what I believe in. And I think our kids are getting better from that. And I think we're finding out more about them, about embracing the hog. But I feel like we've got a really good staff and really good players that believe in the University of Arkansas and the state of Arkansas.
Sam, always appreciate the time. Wish you guys the best of luck this year.
Good to see you, man. Have a good one.